Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Deep Linkers. I am your host, Nerd Chronic, also joined by my co-host, Drew Grant, aka VIDEODREW. We're joined today by two friends of the show, Tom and Dave, of their own network, Gamefully Unemployed. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Great. I gotta say, a relatively new fan in terms of like the sort of breadth of work that you've done over the years. Way back to the track days and so on, going into like today. I was introduced to you over the pandemic through Drew, who was a very big fan of yours and just caught me up on everything that you had done over the years. It's been a great ride ever since. I hear you in the kitchen when she's cooking. I hear you, when you guys are doing your Discord hangouts. So it's all over the house pretty much almost every day.
We're haunting you.
Yeah.
I like that.
So if you have some sort of reaction during this recording, that's what's going on. Got it.
Sorry for blowing up your spot like that. It is true that during the pandemic, the very early days of pandemic, and this isn't a question, this is just a comment, that very early days of pandemic, I thought there was a chance the world might be ending. And I made a thing with myself early on where I was like, if I'm going out, I'm going to go out with myself listening to Fox Mulder as a Maniac. That's going to be the last thing I listen to. Before I was like cooking bread, trying to not have a panic attack.
Be the last thing.
Yeah.
The last thing you hear, yeah.
The very last thing I hear is Tom's impression of Fox Mulder. It's going to be perfect. And it's great because now we've actually survived the pandemic and now we're getting to the end of Fox Mulder as a Maniac. I mean, does that bring up anything for you guys now that you're getting to the very final end of that run of a show?
Mostly panic.
Yeah, really just terror.
Because
we've really been coasting on that show for the past 6 years.
It was a very it was a very good idea.
It was a really good idea.
We have other ideas.
Now we have to think of a new idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because
is there anyone else you do a good impression of that you can possibly do for the next podcast?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I didn't know I could do a Mulder, really. Just sort of happened. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's tough because the X-Files is it's one of those that there's other X-Files podcasts, but for people our age, it's just a very perfect subject. That it's not too, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also takes itself seriously enough that you can kind of make fun of it, you can talk about it, and it's hard to find when we're talking about how do we replace that show, it's hard to find that sweet spot, We've gotten a lot of suggestions.
I mean, my suggestion, I think I brought this up how many times? What was the first time I was on your show 5 or 6 years ago would be, and now more pertinent than ever, Housecast. The show where we go over why it's uncool that House was the guy that he was.
House because House is in that sweet spot where it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's so dated in a way that I've rewatched it recently, and it's just it thinks it's edgy in one way, but it's just kind of problematic in a lot of other ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's in a little bit of a different category than the X-Files because it feels closer to a Dead Zone, or I know there's a better example. I don't want to say Manimal just because I'm thinking of Manimal, but there's a huge gimmick in House, right?
Yeah.
Of where he's comes up with these convoluted threads and then ends up being right.
Yes.
So there's a lot of.
Well, that's a Mulder trait, right?
Yeah.
I think that dates it in a really. I mean, the X-Files is dated in a very specific way as well, but shows like that date them so perfectly in a different way within the era of TV that they come out in. Because of, the CSI stuff where it's zooming all in on shit like that. We used to think that was so friggin' cool.
Yeah.
And now you watch it, it is just it is so corny.
It's the X-Files is something you could show someone who hasn't seen it and they might get into it. I don't think House, you can say the same thing.
I don't think you could overcome the corniness of House. I think the X-Files is more the sweet spot that we're looking for, where it's you can still watch it as a show where it's not ridiculous on its face.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, I think you're probably gonna say this, but you had never seen the X-Files until you'd been hearing them talk about the X-Files for like a couple months in the kitchen.
Yeah, I had seen like maybe like 1 or 2 episodes, offhand, like over.
That's the worst way to get introduced to it. Because now you can't watch the show.
Well, I would hear.
That's all you'll be thinking about is what the hell is Mulder doing this time?
That's the funniest part. It was how it started. She would play a segment of one of your episodes out of context, and just like I would be my intro to like what was going on in the show, and that was just like the best way to sort of do it. And just looking back at it now, because we've watched a lot of X-Files now to go along with the podcast and everything, and I think the good thing about it compared to something like House or whatever is X-Files was in a very specific era of TV where it was like, and it went on so long where it was like just constantly changing and evolving in its own style, and like who was taking it over and stuff like that. So there were like eras you can kind of like jump to, and it sort of shifts the way you approach it and like interact with it. And I guess for, like Drew said, as the show's sort of winding down for your run with it and getting to like some other shows, I guess what is the sort of process you guys have with developing an idea that you want to cover, like finding the sweet spot between something that's a passion for you, but also something that you think is like, lucrative in a way, like it can give you a lot of like content to cover and stuff like that.
I mean, without saying what we're planning on doing next, we do consider both, right? Like we talked about like, all right, well, we kind of want to talk about this, but if we're talking about a sustainable show that like will reach a lot of people, we should probably do this. And there's no reason we can't do both, like that's been a lot of our conversation. So we have been a little strategic, more than I think we probably give ourselves credit for. Like, I don't initially think that we're strategic at all with that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Like my initial
like
answer was
do whatever we want.
Yeah. My initial answer is like, what if it's this? Sure. Like it's that process, but I think we're a little more tapped in terms of trying to think about that. Some of the things we offer are like, we have custom podcasts where people can have us do a podcast that they specifically about a specific thing they want. And they're going through our Patreon to do that. And that stuff, it's like, that's been fun because it's like, you're kind of rolling the dice on that, where it's like people might suggest an idea that you're like, I don't know if that's going to be a good podcast at all. But you sort of learn over time just based on someone rolling that dice, like, oh, this worked or this didn't work. Yeah,
I've actually really enjoyed that tier. On the Patreon, because first of all, it's a source of fresh ideas. like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
and also it's like it's a fun like challenge, like Dave was saying, like Draft Action Hero, man. I still don't know. I still don't think that's a show.
I don't think so either. But we did it.
Yeah, there was a couple of them that it was just like, man, I don't know how we're gonna do this in a way.
The Cop Rock one was really good. I think we bought Cop Rock.
Was just delightful.
Yeah,
I still want us to do a season 2.
Yeah, fuck it.
like we're doing with like sort of like a version of Batical, I guess, where we just talk about a season of television that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's really good. I really like that concept, by the way. I'm all in on the Batical season 2, like the TV show, expanding a TV show past its first season idea.
Oh, like,
that's a lot of realm to play in.
I've been wanting to do a show of just doing that with movie sequels as well, like sitting around and trying to figure it out.
That was I know that I personally pitched like 2 or 3 different versions of that idea at Cracked.
Yeah.
Like part 2, the sequel was what I was calling.
Oh yeah.
Is he right?
That's a really good idea, actually.
Where it was just we would sit around and improv a sequel. That's the episode. Like, yeah. It was just like, okay, this is Jaws 4, go, and like. I had a couple of versions of the idea where it's like everybody would take a character and do it, or I can't remember, but that's still an idea I really want us to do.
Well, actually, that's a great idea. I mean, that kind of brings me back to I wanted to zoom out for a second, because you guys do a lot of collaborations with Small Beans, another great podcast network that exists in your guys' ecosystem, and I've noticed that's all from like Cracked people, right? You guys are former Cracked people, and that Small Beans as well, Gamefully Unemployed. There's like a couple like clusters of like cool internet people.
News.
Some More News is another one. Yeah. So can you guys tell me a little bit, if it's not too like fresh of a thing, what was that transition like, moving from Cracked where you have a big office and a lot of resources behind you, into doing full-time content creation, individually or with just, at home by yourselves?
It's funny. It inspired the name of our network, which does not apply anymore. Not really. Gamefully Unemployed.
Neither side of it really does.
Yeah, we were playing a lot of games.
We were doing a lot of
board games because we were all physically in proximity to each other. And
our initial idea was to do more game streaming along with the podcasts.
I think we'll always come back to it here and there. Yeah. But it's just funny how that happened. And so like everybody was just, everybody was fired. So everybody was helping each other and everybody was sort of pairing off. Small Beans happened actually before the big layoffs. They kind of went off and did that.
Yeah, they had already been sort of
working on it, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I believe that's what Mike and Abe have said.
But it was everybody leaning on each other.
Was Some More News part of Cracked, and that came like with it, or
it was originally a Cracked show called something
Some
different.
News.
Yeah. And they, with the blessing of Cracked, I believe they worked that all out, and that is now its own thing.
A huge ecosystem of Some More News fans in this house too. That's what we put on every night so I can go to sleep. Just old Some More News episodes.
That's what you go to sleep to? All right.
Yeah. So that way you guys can incept my dreams. But I always wake up and it's like Christian Harloff has been playing for an hour, and it's like,
man.
Yeah. I got a real weird dreamscape these days because
Yeah, Drew's very, very easily incepted by whatever's on TV. If you just leave it on, you will have a very linear dream about whatever that subject matter is.
Very plot-driven dream, yeah.
There's 10 hours of the sounds of the Starship Enterprise engine.
Oh, wow.
I highly recommend that, because then you'll dream that you're in the TNG
space.
universe.
You're down there with Geordi.
I mean, it won't come the exact way you're thinking about, not to derail this podcast, but it's more like I'll dream that I'm hanging out with Christian. He's just giving me a lot of like movie news, or I'm hanging out with Warmbo and he's just giving me a lot of information.
You're dreaming about Warmbo? I don't even dream about Warmbo.
I love Warmbo.
Yeah.
Writing for Warmbo is...
he's a Lynchian character at this point. He's come from
do you know where a character is a voice?
Yeah.
And it's just as soon as you start doing the voice, like the bits just come.
Yeah.
So it's like all I have to do is just think of Warmbo's voice, and it's like it's very, very easy to write.
Yeah.
Very weird. Just all the things that Warmbo does. Yeah.
There's rules to Warmbo, but there's also like a lot of looseness to like things. Part of the fun is him surprising.
Yeah.
You with like how things he says. I don't know. Warmbo's great to write for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the Warmbo
very
fan
difficult to
fiction on
work
Reddit.
with.
Yeah.
Very difficult to work with Warmbo. I know how Warmbo got his name, but Cody's told that story a million times, which was an email chain where I said, "What should the puppet be called?" And he said, "I don't know, Warmbo." And I said, "That's perfect." And that was it. That was the conception of Warmbo. The name, but.
And Eric will edit this. Just put a ton of B-roll of Warmbo on the screen. Just
a
edit this
montage. Yeah. And between say Some More News and and the network itself for Gamefully Unemployed, I guess how do you guys sort of manage just like that ping pong of work that you do for your colleagues, Some More News, but also just trying to maintain the work for the podcast network and stuff like that, and just like not burning yourself out, because it's a lot of work, I can tell, just from what those scripts and everything, and just the amount of time that you put into the podcast and stuff.
I have an answer.
So do I. What's yours?
Okay, go. I want to hear yours.
Okay.
Because I don't think we've ever shared each other's answers.
Oh.
Or tactics. We might have.
Our strategy?
Yeah, what's your strategy?
My answer is I don't sleep.
Oh, mine is better than yours.
That's why you're always awake, Tom, to answer all my texts at 3 a.m. That makes sense.
That's right.
That makes sense. Okay.
I personally just treat it like a job. Like I 9 to 5 it a lot. I've made a calendar, a 2-week calendar that I update every week and push the week down. And I just slot in the things that we're supposed to do. I mean, me and Tom, we've picked specific days to record. Where we will go we always record this day, this day, this day, this day, and that's when those get done. And we've assigned like specific type. So like it's for me, it's just all about routine. Is the only way to do it. Because for a while it was insanity, right? Especially like some more news. There's depending on like staffing and stuff like that. But after a while, I sort of, you just want to try to carve out days off where you can. But as long as everything stays fairly routine, you can sort of work with it as much as possible. There's always surprises, but that's basically how I've been doing it. Is I just plug it into each. I plug it in the week before. I go like, okay, well, this day we usually do this. This day we do that, and it's compartmentalizing everything.
Yeah, that's the longer answer is we have this calendar where we are very scheduled. Like we're pretty organized in terms of when we record and getting everything done. Yeah. And then I sit down and write. I have a planner that I studiously keep. I've done it for years, like a huge nerd. And I just plan out my week that way. Like I write what needs to get, like what we're recording, what needs to get done X day, like what project needs to get done that week. Like, and it's
the difficulty is,
and it's also I don't sleep because I have to fit in. I have to fit in all the extra stuff in between the cracks of like 9 to 5 and Gamefully schedule. So. And then, there's a whole other person that for some reason we decided to add to the house. So now I have to deal with her.
Oh, yeah. Bill?
Bill?
That dude?
That dude. Yeah. He just followed us home and he lives here now, I guess. So.
Do you ever, Tom, have I have where I wake up in the middle of the night, like working out something I'm writing? Like, have you ever dreamed about something you're writing?
Oh, yeah.
Or something? Yeah, it's the worst. Because you wake up and it's all gibberish because you're dreaming. And you wake up and you're like, oh, that was really productive. And
made total sense a second ago, yeah.
Yeah, or it's something you've already finished where you're like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like there's nothing I can do there.
It's just, you guys are probably familiar with this, but it's living in just that suspended anxiety state, like that perpetual deadline state.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have old job dreams. Like, how people have old, like going back to school dreams.
Yeah.
I have the one where I go back to being a dishwasher, and it's not a nightmare because it is like, all I have to do is wash these dishes.
Yeah, I can go home and just, I can leave the job at work.
Yeah, obviously there are perks to not,
Of course, yeah.
But like there was a niceness to being able to like just go home, get hammered.
But when you're working for your own thing that you believe in and all of your friends' things that you believe in, and you're all friends and you all love and support each other, it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's that hard. I don't know, like it's that much work. I don't know, it just feels like very easy to make the time for it. And it's, we're all just kind of helping each other out, and it's been like really great. I mean, I remember when we all got laid off, it was like, Jesus, what the hell are we gonna do?
But it was nice to have a support system right away,
Yeah, just keeping that sort of network going after the fact, and like making it thrive, like in some way, keeping the balance between work and home. It's like it gets a little messy, especially in this sort of space. I remember when I was in college, my one thing was like, when I'm done with school, like I want to get a job and not have to worry about homework like ever again. That's what I'm looking forward to. Now my job is entirely homework. Everything is there now.
What are you saying, Eric? You're right down the hall from me. Like, what are you talking about?
It's all homework. But when you guys start developing ideas for yourself, for like Gamefully Unemployed and like something that's like sort of like your own personal project, have you ever had to sort of like hit the brakes on one where like you're thinking like this sounds really good, but you get a point where like, I don't know if we can make something out of this as fruitful as I would like.
There's definitely prioritizing projects like for me, I'm like, okay, I do some more news, I do Gamefully Unemployed. If there's any third thing that enters that, you have to prioritize it a certain way, right? Where it's like, sadly, I have to prioritize, like, am I getting paid for that? If it's a long-term thing, is it something that, like, okay, is this something that I will add on? And like, is it an opportunity that I want to add on and stuff like that? I've always been trying to like pump the brakes on new projects before they get out of, early. Personally, more like cautious about stuff like that. Like, I try not to commit to anything immediately if I can help it, for that reason, where it's like everything's exciting. It's just a matter of knowing, like, well, how many hours are in the day, that's how I try to do it, at least. I don't know.
Right.
Do you mean doing additional projects, or like stuff for Gamefully?
A bit of both. Like, I think Dave kind of like tapped into what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which like, for like project, I guess the balance of like, finding a project that you want to do for the podcast, but then also managing stuff that you want to do, like a third thing, like Dave mentioned, like other things that come your way as opportunities.
Someone come in and be like, hey, I have this cool opportunity. Could come join my startup.
Yeah, for the podcast, when it's between me and Tom, it's a lot looser in terms of that. It's still limited by time and resources.
Yeah, what we're able to do.
But in that case, it's like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
As long as we can,
just a matter of when.
Yeah, as long as we find the time to do it. I'm sort of the opposite of Dave. I never say no.
You gotta say no.
Me and Tom have like 10 podcasts that we've been meaning to do. I think a collectibles one.
I know.
We have like
I don't. For the record, I never say no. I just go like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. I just don't commit.
Right.
And I have like probably a half dozen projects for Gamefully that are in some stage of development.
Yeah.
Just more scripted stuff, more like a space for writing, some of my writing. It's a question of time. Really.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really cost us anything extra to do add a new show, especially if it's just me and Dave. It's really just a question of time and resources. So I'm ideally at some point we would be able to just focus on this and be able to develop these, have the time and space and sort of mind share to develop these projects more quickly. But right now I've still got to do the sort of day job thing.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it's it's really just a question of time. Like Batical I mentioned earlier, I started working on that 2 years ago.
Wow. I'll say sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's it. That's the end of that.
I don't know. I think that's okay if that's your method. Like, I think, I am the opposite, where like when it comes to like mini series, if I have say, which we don't always, like, we have mini series that patrons make that it's like we're gonna record them when we record them. But for me, my instinct is the opposite, where I'm like, do it all. And then tell people about it, where it's like, I'm not gonna say shit until this thing is done. But like,
so
that also
doing with the guy lights.
Exactly. Where the guy lights, me and Adam, we record, and then I'll put those out months after record, which is fun because people will tweet about something and I'll be like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That was a different person you're talking to.
But
for me it's like I get that. I realized something about myself from going through our schedule and stuff like that, is like I think I would thrive as like whatever the guy in Fight Club did that he hated. Like, I would thrive in a cubicle doing like data entry, because I get a dopamine rush when I'm like filling in things. So I get a literal rush where it's like, if I record a whole podcast and then we schedule it 3 months from now, and I'm like, and that's done. Like
Yeah.
in 2-3 months from now, this week is filled up, and
You might
like
just be
not
doing the
everybody
separate
has
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
and
I
it's
get a similar feeling.
okay. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's a popping bubble bubble wrap situation.
Completing a task, completing a project.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's. I guess I'm like chasing that with those things. But then, like, I don't know, Baticle's an ongoing thing, so it's like, there's a
Yeah,
certain
I'm gonna
point
do
where
it
it's like,
in
at some point, it's like
seasons.
you have to just release it. You know, you have to just.
That's what I just did. Because otherwise I was going to sit on it forever, and of course, I've been slow putting them out. So,
Well, you work well under pressure, Tom, or at least that you've said that to me, and I've seen that.
Yep.
Like you've said, you're like, yeah, I like having a due date. I'm just the opposite, where I do not work well under pressure, and so
I think
like
I
my
resent
tactic
pressure.
is, yeah, my
Yeah.
tactic is to try to never have it and to get so ahead that I'm pressured to get ahead,
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, that's just pressure. I'm just doing pressure again.
Do you think it like makes a? Have you guys noticed like a sort of difference, or has your thinking evolved on this now that you work for essentially yourselves and therefore an audience, like your people who subscribe to your Patreon or people who listen to the podcast, as opposed to the man or whoever owns the company or whatever boss that you might have? Do you feel like you put in more work, the same amount of work, or has it shifted your ideas of what deadlines are for or who you're answering to when you do them?
I mean, yeah, we answer to the patrons. I get there's a few things, but like, I don't know. I like the pace we've been going. We kind of just have to communicate with each other, you know. And
Yeah.
like,
I always worked too much, regardless of who it was for. So, but like I was saying earlier, because it's for us and because it's for all of our friends, it's just a dream to get to work this hard. But it hasn't lessened the work. It's just made it feel less like work.
right, you're kind of answering to yourself and your own guilt sometimes. But like, Tom, you've been very good with me on this stuff where it's like we kind of also like if like we'll communicate to each other, and it's easier to talk to someone and go like, yeah, I'm not feeling good today, or like this or that, and like discussing, and it's like it doesn't feel like you're working for any entity that doesn't give a shit about you. And that's nice. And like, other than that, we have the patrons, and the patrons are also like, I think our philosophy has just been communicate with them. Like,
Yeah.
we kind of what the Patreon relationship, what some people probably feel like is a downside, but it's been very good, is that people are very, and I like they're tuned into, like, it's easy to just share personal shit to them. And I'm not saying that they care or not, but it's like that communication, they're more in tune to stuff like that. So you can say like, hey, we're delaying that podcast because like of this reason or that. And people are like, hey, it's cool. You know, like, because
Their point of fact, they're often nagging us to take time off.
so, yeah,
Really?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a totally unexpected thing. Was the community that's built up.
Oh, it's
through the
fantastic.
Patreon and on Discord. It's so great. There's so many awesome people. Like the way that we have been working, together with a lot of our friends from Cracked. Like a lot of the community is kind of spread out, like across all of the different projects that we're all doing. Like a lot of it's a lot of the same people, the same community. It's just been really, really great, and a thing that more than we could have ever hoped for.
Oh yeah, we're lucky.
We're very, very lucky as far as that goes. So
Because I feel like they don't need us. I'm like,
they definitely don't, man.
I don't get. I've met a lot of them in real life, and I'm just like, oh, this person's cooler than me. All right,
Right.
got it.
Oh, yeah.
All of them,
Yeah,
all
like-
of them have their shit together way more
Yeah.
than I do.
Shout out to your
and
guy,
like-
and Max, who works for Shark Tank. Like, not to call it his spot, but we found out he worked at Shark Tank recently. And that was awesome. I was like, I wish I worked for Shark Tank.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's come up a few times on movie nights.
And
Yeah.
like people, I don't know, we're blessed with the freaking Discord, because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've talked to other people where they're like, how do you moderate your Discord? And I'm like, you're supposed to moderate a Discord.
Itself. Yeah,
Yeah, where it's like I think we had some people who we had as mods early on. And I don't know, maybe it's Mad Max on there, and I just not paying attention. Like I wish I got to spend more time on that stuff and in that community.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another thing.
I'm glad we have the Friday nights where.
Yeah, we want to do more. We've tried to do other more regular Discord events, and that would be the other thing that ideally we'd be able to do if we were, more specifically me, was in a position to devote more of my energy to Gamefully. Well, yeah, that's true.
That's the stuff I genuinely like. Like I like even on Twitch streaming. And
yeah, it would be a lot more the streaming, the game stuff is more. We want to do more of that, and more the community stuff. More the, like I said, the projects that I'd like to push faster through development. But anyway, that's these are all good problems to have.
No, it's amazing. The community you guys have built, just to tee it up here a bit, is like it's incredible. And I think I've tried to pick both of your brains separately about like how you build this kind of Discord community.
Did absolutely nothing.
Really?
All right. I would say we timed things right and we got lucky where it's that when we were doing board game streams and it had all the cracked people, I think that attracted people because we were the only ones doing that. And everybody had been fired and Crack had an audience, Yeah. And, like, we built up the Twitch, we built up the Discord. We did a lot of stuff that's sort of also in that realm of Cracked, right? Stupid, bad movies and reviews. And then that with the streams is I think we were just very accessible to people right away. And then we got some really, really great people just in our community, and that just I don't know, it just got I guess it just spread from there. I guess that's the part where I'm like, I don't know.
We did a lot of community focused stuff in the beginning. Like we did the movie nights from the start. It used to be game nights, but that like as the Discord grew, it just got too big for us to do game nights.
It's too exclusive because it's also like
because you can only fit like 10 people into a game, and it's like shit. That's so we do it as a movie night now.
I mean, I can just speak firsthand about how special those kind of things are, though. I think you guys are the first community that I ever joined where I was like, I think you and me, Tom, we worked together at Collider. I was like, where do we work again? Not Crack, Collider. And there was a period of my life where I was going through a bad breakup and had lost a job and was moving East Coast. And there was like nothing that I had going on all week. I was like laid up in bed from a car accident. It was a real dark
I was about to say, you got hit by a car in there too.
Yeah, hit by a car, all the things. And I think Friday nights, like hanging out on Friday nights was like, I think I bought this headset to hang out with you guys on Friday nights. Yeah. And that was just what I had to do during the week. That's all I had to get through, like through the pain, through all the other stuff was like, just make it to Friday nights and then I'll be able to hang out with all of you guys. And it really felt like such a appointment based, like friend group thing.
Yeah.
Which is like,
glad. Yeah, no, I genuinely look forward to it too.
Yeah, me too. We got that like real estate, you know what I mean? Where I also, like, I think of Cracked had, Jason's form, The Pointless Waste of Time, where like I wasn't, like I knew of a lot of people who are, it's like, I'm not going on that site to read the site. I'm going on for the forum, right? Where it's like, I imagine to some extent, there's probably people who are casual listeners of our podcast who are just,
I'm sure
on
people
the
who never go to the Discord. Yeah.
Like
or vice versa.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, I think we also just got lucky where it's like our Discord became the place for a large amount of people. It seems like to hang out. Like I know people put on like there's someone who does a wrestling night, and they'll ask me, which is sweet of them every time. And every time I'm like, it's sweet that you ask me, but the answer is always yes. Like of course, yeah,
like yeah.
And I think other people have other
appreciate the heads up, of course.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be like, I'm going to show a snuff film on Saturday. Is that cool?
Yeah. Just like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It does make me nostalgic for a time I was not there for, though, because I'm East Coast. So for a lot of my 20s and formative years, it was hanging out with the college humor people who are, I used to think of it as like, that's East Coast Cracked. And then I found, because I met a lot of the Cracked people like Dan, a lot of people through people from College Humor. And then I kind of evolved my thinking after Cracked was gone. And I was like, oh shit, that was like a way better site, like way more intellectual site. And I had a lot more there was just a lot more depth and nuance to both the content being written and the articles being published. And I'm saying this with my sister, having published for like 8 years on College Humor, being the person who curated all their Tumblr and everything. Like, it's not to disrespect that, but like, you guys, there was a lot of like, I would say actual intellectualism that went into a lot of the Cracked articles that I think carries into, just like a lot of like, it's smart people on the internet. It's something that I think has been less of in modern times and more recent times. There's just less smart articles being written. There's less smart content being engaged with. And it's kind of great to find communities where like, maybe that's what it is. It's just, certain communities, if you follow their patrons, you can find the smart people writing about smart things or talking about smart things or talking about things in a smart way, rather.
I was gonna say we don't talk about smart things.
Definitely smart things. Yeah.
Talk about dumb things in a smart way. Yeah.
I know that's. I appreciate that. That's really. I'm not sure I agree, but I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think some of it.
I agree about Cracked.
Some of it I think is a little more mean spirited than I would have liked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Cracked.
That was kind of the tone of the time too.
Mm-hmm.
Old Cracked.
Yeah.
I also
late
think
aughts Cracked.
Hey guys, Drew Grant here from Passion Fruit. Just wanted to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Deep Linkers. To everyone that's commented on our videos, shared our work, or otherwise supported the channel, we see you, we appreciate you, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming for the creator community at Passion Fruit. If you haven't already, the usual stuff on YouTube always helps us, like hitting that like button and subscribing with that little bell so you'll be notified about new videos. We also have a bi-weekly Passion Fruit newsletter that focuses on the creator industry, which you can sign up for through the link in the video description and the pinned comment. Twice a week, you'll get our best stories, as well as exclusive interviews, expert reviews, and the latest resource guides to help you navigate every stage of the creator journey. We even got a weekend newsletter on the way, with a curated creator spotlight that focuses on the best online content from the people who make it. You. Thanks again for supporting Passion Fruit and Reactorverse and Deep Linkers and helping make your content your business and giving love to people who make the web.
It's funny. I never was really in like Tom. I knew you well when we worked at Cracked, but I wasn't that part of the community until we got fired. There's a lot of people like this is an interesting thing. Me and Abe didn't really know each other until we got fired.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of people like that. But I think Crack's the pursuit of like the intelligent like research articles was also kind of hurt us. Like I think it kind of like because at a certain point like we were doing the dumb stuff that Tom I agree was like a little more mean spirited than it should be. It's dated. Yeah. It's dated.
Some of it's including I go back and watch even some of my. Well, that's what I'm referring to is what I'm talking about is my articles and videos and such and articles that I contributed to because I was a behind the scenes just punch up guy editor for many years. Tom,
you're the first person I ever heard at Cracked. Like
that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
You guys have the best. You guys still have on Cracked webs or YouTube page the #1 video on Cracked on your guys' on the whole YouTube.
I don't.
No, you both of you. I think you're both credited as.
Oh, we're in it.
Yeah, I think you're both in it. It's about the cop and the New York cop and the New York cop in the 80s or something. I don't know. It's a video about like
I have the honor of writing the last video that went up on Cracked the day we got fired and for a while the longest video. And it was a video because we got fired. We didn't go through like the whatever the processes of like it was like scheduled but it didn't have a title and the video was about how the Muppets did 9/11 and the video dropped the day we got fired and the title was just like Muppets did 9/11 with no punctuation and people were like, well, this is why they got fired. They got too close to the truth.
Yeah.
Is that video still up? Can I go find Muppets did 9/11 with no punctuation?
I have no idea.
No idea. Yeah.
But what I was saying about like, I think we were almost too smart for our own good. And what I mean by that is like, because it was good, like we talked about history and science. Mm-hmm. When that stuff started getting attacked politically, it was like, I think we got a little wrapped up in that. Like, I think that was a thing that we had no choice to talk about where like that, like the facts themselves became like a political thing to have to discuss. And I always think of people who are like Crack got political and it's like, I think facts got political. And like we were a site about facts. And so it was like naturally that stuff pinged us over time. So it's like I guess I don't regret that stuff, but that stuff really like it was a very emotional thing to have to deal with as the site sort of progressed.
Yeah, it became a lot to have to deal with all the politic stuff.
It shouldn't have
constantly.
it shouldn't have been a site where like we had to think about like trolls talking about politics. You know what I mean?
But again, that's not the reason why we got. Like, it
they didn't say we were too woke, and they fired us.
It had nothing to do with it. It was.
I mean, we could say that. We could pretend that.
You guys talked a lot about Star Wars, and by definition, probably we're too woke.
It was. We were way overvalued when we were sold.
Mark Zuckerberg.
We've talked about this a little bit with our buddy Elliot Dewberry from Internet Today, and like he just like the way the internet has progressed over the last almost a decade now, with a lot of the craziness and like politics and everything, and the lines blurring together in terms of like what that means for pop culture and like again like the culture wars and stuff like that. And you guys have been very vocal. I think Dave specifically, I've seen you be very vocal on Twitter and so on to people about certain subjects that are important. But you don't necessarily let it bleed into the topics. Like in Hypecast, you talk about pop culture, and the pop culture, it should just be like very surface level stuff just to sort of like ruminate on. But people have like turned it into like a lot of talking points. It's like what it means, of like woke and stuff like that. I guess how have you guys what have you seen the evolution of that over the last decade change in terms of like how you approach the material, how you see other people approach the material, and just like how you sort of engage with it,
or social media yourself. In general.
Yeah, social media too.
Just in general, not necessarily about politics, because like I like what I like about Hypecast and like our movie ones is we don't have to talk about that shit at all. It's a nice break from that. I've always, I don't know, Tom, do you have a good answer for this? Because I'm on social media, I'm not thinking about engagement at all. I'm just saying shit, and then I'll go like, oh, that did really well, and I don't read any comments, and it's a one-way street where I'm just like,
it's just shouting into the void.
Blue Sky, it's a little nicer, so I'm starting to be like, I can engage with people here. But like Twitter, I was just like, yeah.
I really, it felt important to do, I guess, since we're getting into such a war on truth and post-truth and everything. It's like, I very much disagree with the viewpoint. It's like, well, they don't care that they're hypocrites, so what's the point in pointing out the hypocrisy? I'm like, I disagree. You have to you got to keep pointing it out. You can't ever forget that it's a lie, that it's not true. So I was really, really sticking to that. And then I guess when Twitter was bought
by who?
By a weird inflated noodle. The shriveled corpse white ET in the canyon inflated with a tire balloon and given sunglasses and hair plugs and an emerald mine. I didn't want to generate money for him.
Yeah.
So I just haven't been posting on Twitter at all, really. Retweet our business stuff sometimes, but it's like, here's the secret. Twitter was never a meaningful driver of engagement for anyone, anywhere, period. It never has been.
I think it's given some people careers.
Yes, it's given some people visibility, but in terms of driving traffic to a website, your show, your thing, it does not do that. It is not a meaningful driver of that. So like the fact that it's just descending even more just into this just howling abattoir of right-wing maniacs. It's like we're not even like, what's even the point of us tweeting our stuff in there anymore, like sharing our shows in there anymore. So it was never a thing of like, oh, I need to keep this up because it's my brand. Like I never thought about that. It's just it's just well, that's bullshit, and I feel the need to say it. And we all got caught up in Twitter. We all did.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is I've been blocked by Scott Adams. You know, like I've gotten into arguments. I learned like as a creator,
I went
like,
into the paint on James O'Keefe.
Yeah, doing content creation. I found that like the term you never should punch down. I don't fully agree with that with Twitter. Or, like engaging in conversations with anybody is good, but I did find that like I've seen people get into commenter feedback loops. And what I mean is and this went all the way back to Cracked, where you start reading the comments, and then in your articles, you're like anticipating what they're going to say, and you're trying to like get ahead of them, and you're like starting arguments with these commenters before, and it's just like, just say what you want, don't fucking read anything. So it's like, try not to get fights with randos on the internet about bullshit you're not going to feel good about,
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a trend that I've seen in some writing as in my work as a managing editor in a couple of different places, like Good Collider and Ranker. And anyway, that is a trend I'm noticing, and people are writing opinion pieces like that. I'm getting a lot of like new writers or green writers who write their pieces and trying to anticipate every possible argument or comment that could possibly be leveled at it. And it just becomes this like 2,000 words of caveats. And then, so that's such good advice, is don't fucking worry about it. Like you have a point that you're making, make your point. Like your article doesn't, like there's that tweet that that very famous tweet where I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's like somebody's like, I like waffles. Oh, so you hate pancakes? Why do you hate pancakes? It's like, you just write your thing about waffles and don't worry about what people are going to say about pancakes.
Which, by the way, is why I know Blue Sky is there. It's made it, because I had a tweet that blew up the other day, and I got so many comments, like Twitter-ass comments, of people like saying my joke back to me, or being like, and it was just like, oh, we're back, baby. We're so back. This is great.
We're in it.
It is like, generally speaking, the problem I think with social media now is like Blue Sky is the best version, because it's like it gets bigger and bigger, and then inevitably, because like at the start, right, with Twitter or Facebook, where you go like, oh, this is a great place to promote myself, to reach an audience, and the social media companies, inevitably want just more and more money. They don't want to just be the thing, so they're like, we can be content, we can host the content, we can have videos that are embedded, not people linking to their videos. We can start being the content, is the idea, right? Because it's just this big money farm for the people in charge. And they get these bloated ideas of what social media can be, where they're like, we are X is the everything app. Yeah. We're now going to be your banking. We're going to be you. There's no internet. You just go on, you tap X, and
can't
you have
wait to throw my fucking credit card into that void.
Right. And that's the thing, is like, some of them might succeed, because we've obviously, like, you've all probably existed when the internet was a series of web pages that you went to, and it's like it feels like we're never going to go back to that. All we can do is pivot to slightly less worse social media companies. And that's what like Blue Sky is like, okay, we're just Twitter like it was. And it's like, that's great. Twitter like it was still sucked. It's not a bad place.
Twitter.
Right. It's not a bad place, but it's a bad replacement for the internet, where it's like, I wish people had hubs again people had like their own personalized hubs, I wish people used
RSS feeds. Yeah.
It's a shame that that social media became the internet.
Yeah. And so like it feels like we're lucky enough to get in on that right before it happened, meaning that we had an audience that we could do a Patreon for. But like if you're a young creator, I guess
I'm
do
not
TikTok
sure.
until they ban it and hope to make enough money doing TikTok.
Banning it.
It's just like if you're a young writer, it's like Substack, I guess.
I don't know. I feel like, and this just could be me being tremendously old. I'm one of the oldest people.
Ever live.
I feel like people are. I feel like people are more into that idea now. They're more into like directly supporting people that they like and things that they enjoy.
I think that's
rather than having to like go through all of this crap, all the weird gatekeeping middlemen, like Facebook or whatever other services you have to
I agree
to in order to get your stuff out there.
I think young people are always going
media.
to thrive. I just wish, right now, I think the issue is the money isn't there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think young people are always going to find ways to be creative and amazing and kind of there's a reason Facebook doesn't have young people in it anymore. It's like, and they're trying to get them, and it's like, sorry, buddy, it's over. And so I think
it's just boomers sending each other cubicle memes.
Yeah.
AI just getting hit on by your uncle.
Right, AI just speaking to each other, spitting memes out at each other.
The dead mole.
It's literally that now. I'm
I'm
working on a script on AI art, and it literally is just like bots making memes that other bots are now engaging with, and just to make some shareholders look at a spreadsheet and go I guess we're doing good.
Numbers go up.
Collapses. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a grift. I do think I agree with you, Tom, which I think that the audience is looking for new things. It's like the money has to catch up. The people in charge, are still chasing that stuff. Threads is now doing the stuff Blue Sky is already doing. And it's sorry, guys, you should have thought of it first. It just has to break a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there are still avenues for new artists. It's definitely a lot harder for writers right now. That's for damn sure.
It used to be a job as a blogger. That was a whole thing you could do. Blogging as a career. I was a professional blogger.
You used to be able to. That's right. You were. You used to be able to write 2 articles a year.
Yeah.
Just work. I work for Harper's Bazaar.
I was a power blogger.
I'll file 3 articles this year and get paid a full year's salary.
It's crazy.
It's the opposite of the meme of when I was a kid we had it hard. We're just when we started out we didn't have to do shit.
No.
And it was great.
Well, it's just we've done so much to cheapen.
I didn't
content.
Anyway,
pretend to be an NPC 6 times a day online and make $10 doing it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I really want to thank you. I mean, this conversation could go on forever, but I know we all have a heart out. We'll go on forever. Let's take this over to the Discord chat. But to close this out, can you tell us where we can find you guys? I know we've talked a lot about it, but in specifics, where can people go to find Gamefully Unemployed content? Gamefully Unemployed content. Yeah.
Should we give them the classic plug, Tom? Or do you want to reverse it?
Please.
We're over at patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed. We have exclusive podcasts over there, like Tom and Jeff watch Batman, Fox Mulder's Maniac, Star Trek: The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. That's actually the night we're recording this. Tom, you can't be with us tonight.
I'm going to be.
But I have something
tonight.
special.
I have a family
planned.
engagement.
Good.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, after all.
Yeah. We also, as we've been talking about, we also have tiers where you can commission your own podcast series or your own episode of We Just Watch. There's a bunch of stuff. Check that out. We also have a store, GamefullyUnemployed.com. You can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. You can get it on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of stuff. There's some really great Mulder stuff by Starlene Hodge.
We've said this before.
And
you don't
by
have to be a fan
Michael
of us.
Vincent Bramley. There's a very, very excellent courtroom drawing by Michael Vincent Bramley and a very excellent conspiracy board spoof on the Charlie Kelly meme by Starlene Hodge with Mulder. There's some fun stuff in there.
We have, again, you don't have to be a fan of our podcast because there's just some stuff. If you're a fan of the X-Files or Batman,
we have some fun Batman stuff.
You guys have some great Batman.
We really do. And so people should really check that out. It's awesome. Also, just Google us. We also have free stuff, right?
We have a lot of free
GAMEFULOY unemployed.
Yeah. Most of our stuff is free because we love you. Speaking of free stuff, Batical. I've been talking about that show.
Batical.
It is being sporadically updated. It's ideally bi-weekly, but I decided to release it after just having a child. go find it. Batical, wherever you find podcasts. It's its own thing. For some reason, I decided to try that too.
why not?
We'll probably just end up putting it on our network. I don't know. But anyway.
And how about for us, Eric? You're better at doing these things than us. than I
Yeah.
am.
You can find me at Nerdchronic across social media. You can find Drew at VIDEODREW across social media. You can find us at Passion Fruit for Us across social media. You can find links to our Discord and Patreon in the description below. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Go check out our new documentary on Mr. Beast. It is on this channel. And like and subscribe. Do all those things. Thanks.
Awesome.
Do it.
Yeah. Bye, guys.